to webinar for 2025. I'm Lorena Urbina, so I lead our communications team here at Circular Action Alliance, also known as CAA, so you'll hear us say CAA quite a bit during this session today. Before we proceed, just a quick legal disclaimer that this presentation is for your informational purposes only, does not constitute legal advice, so please consult with your own legal counsel for any legal matters. And I think we have a slide that says that, if we could advance to that one so everyone can just see that. Very good. So we have quite a bit of folks joining today. So I'll kick things off just sharing a quick overview of who CAA is before we dive in. I think many of you probably have seen this or a version of this in the past. But of course, CAA is the nonprofit producer responsibility organization that is implementing our country's first extended producer responsibility laws for paper and packaging. CAA was founded in 2022 by a group of companies spanning the food, beverage, consumer goods, and retail industries to help producers meet their financial and, in some cases, operational obligations. We also drive towards ambitious goals that further packaging circularity. So for the past 2+ years, we have been preparing for implementation of packaging EPR, pursuing our mission to help producers comply with EPR laws, deliver harmonized best-in-class services, and work with governments, businesses, and communities to reduce waste and recycle more. So you'll learn a little bit more about where we are in all these processes state by state in just a minute. But before we dive in, just a few housekeeping announcements for today's session. This webinar is open to all interested parties, so we have quite a broad audience with us here today. It will be recorded and shared on our website in the coming days. That's a question we often get. So yes, the session will be recorded and we will share that on our website. We will have a Q&A session at the end of our webinar today. Ask that you use Zoom's Q&A for all of your questions. We'll be watching those trends as the questions come in, and we'll have our panelists answer the most popular questions at the end. I will say we do get quite a lot of questions, so we won't have time to answer every single one of those, but those questions will inform future webinar sessions because it will indicate what you're most interested in. Also, just a quick note, I know we probably have some media in attendance today. We would just ask that any members of the media direct their questions to media@circularactionalliance.org. And that way other interest holders can use this time to ask their questions. And I think that's probably all of the housekeeping notes. I will say we have a packed agenda today. So first up, you'll hear a brief update from Shane Buckingham, our Chief of Staff, on what's happening in Minnesota, Maryland, Maine, Washington, and of course, California. Next up, Jeff Inch, our SVP of Producer Services, will share an update on what's going on with producers, followed by an update from Oregon Executive Director Kim Holmes on all things Oregon. And then Yuri Freeman, our Colorado Executive Director, will close us out with an update on Colorado. So with that, I see we have Shane join us. I will turn it over to Shane for some state updates.
Great, thank you very much. So we can just move forward to the state updates. So in California, Circular Action Alliance has been really focused on building our program plan and then getting the regulations to a point where they will support the successful implementation of extended producer responsibility. So we've made comments in the informal rulemaking process, the formal rulemaking process, and now we're in another round of informal rulemaking. And so we have made comments, and then there will be a formal rulemaking process, and we hope to see the draft regulations completed here at the end of the year. In the meantime, we've launched several different projects to support us in the development of our program plan. And we are also going to be moving forward with reporting and registration with producers. Some of you may have seen that there will be a consultation and a workshop coming up here on the 27th with CalRecycle on covered material category guidance. And so that guidance will be used to support a reporting process that we will launch with registration opening on August 1st and then a deadline of September 5th. We'll open our portal for producer reporting on September 15th with a deadline of November 15th. And to just point out, this will be for the 2023 data because 2023 data is required for establishing the source reduction baseline under the law and the current draft regulations. In Minnesota, CAA has been appointed as the initial producer responsibility organization, and there is a needs assessment that's underway, and that will be used to inform the development of the program plan. We are providing our perspective on it. We are not on the advisory board in that state, but we have shared our point of view after having completed a needs assessment in Colorado and then doing a follow-up needs assessment study in Oregon. Obligated producers must register with CAA in Minnesota by July 1st, 2025. And so we already have our portal open for producer registration. And then producers can soon expect to get our Minnesota interim state addendum for the startup period. And this is going to help us with the initial producer reporting, and our startup fees are early fees. So the Minnesota statute gives the ability to charge early fees using a simplified fee setting methodology, and there will be a consultation on that document upcoming. In Maryland, CAA was appointed initially under the EPR study bill to represent the interests of producers on the advisory council, and we are serving as the single producer responsibility organization in that state. SB 901, Maryland's packaging EPR law, that passed in April, and the governor signed it into law in May. And we're now awaiting the regulatory process to begin. This is something where we'll be seeking to try to harmonize requirements as much as possible to support implementation and consistency for producers who are going to be having to report in multiple EPR states. And so we will keep everybody up to date with our activities in Maryland. Can go to the next slide. So in Maine, this is a bit different than other EPR laws. It's set up to have a request for proposals for a stewardship organization rather than an application process for a single producer responsibility organization like other states have. There was a request for information that we responded to, and so we did express our interest in serving as the producer responsibility organization or the stewardship organization in that state. There will be an RFP process, as I mentioned, later this year, and then the stewardship organization wouldn't be selected until early 2026. And then there would be startup fees in 2026, and then it would move to EPR fees with reporting. In Washington, there's the Recycling Reform Act, and that was signed into law in May. There's a process there for the PRO to be appointed and the advisory council to be formed by January 1st next year. By July 1st, the participation of producers becomes mandatory, and then there will be the publication of a recyclable materials list on October 1st, 2026. By December 31st, 2026, there will be a preliminary statewide recycling system needs assessment, and then any updates to that needs assessment will be done by December 31st, 2027. So that wraps up our state updates. You'll hear more from the team, and I'll turn it over to Jeffrey.
Yeah, thank you very much, Shane. So as everybody can see, there's a lot going on across multiple states. And while Shane and just a tremendous team working alongside him are putting together all the program plans and the operational plans to deliver on compliance against those EPR laws for our producers, we also have a lot of work going into helping producers go through that process themselves and helping them take those compliance steps and supporting them through every step of the way. So I want to give a quick update on some of that and really try to share where we are in our journey there. First up, registration. So this has been something that an activity that has been live since really the middle of 2024 when we called for voluntary producer registration ahead of some of the states that were moving into registration and reporting deadlines. And I just really want to point out the tremendous progress that we've made as an organization to prepare for registration, and then the amazing engagement from producers, large, medium, and small, who have engaged and registered with CAA over the last year or so. And it's really important to notice that the deadlines that we've had in Colorado, as well as the pre-registration in Oregon, and we have an emerging or a looming deadline in Minnesota as well. It's really driven a lot of participation for producers across the board, and you can see the numbers there reflecting that in those states as well. So what's also really important, and why am I showing this slide here? We have a number of steps that producers take in order to get fully registered with us. It's not just a simple account registration form, but that starts the process. And, you know, only a few months ago, a lot of these boxes were green. We were working on all of these different agreements, and we're working on getting producers to be able to sign them and execute those to become full participants in these programs. But amazing progress by the team to actually establish all of these agreements. And once again, producers jumping in and engaging with us in order to get all of this done, including their reporting obligations on the back end. So let's go to the next slide, and I'll talk a little bit about producer reporting. So producer reporting has also demonstrated really strong engagement from producers, and CAA has worked really hard to establish our first reporting cycle, which has been concluded since we last talked in this quarterly webinar. And what's really amazing about that was really the way producers showed up for that and the way they interacted with our brand new tool. So CAA is building a brand new tool to help support producers submit their data to us. And it was our first time doing that. And so we worked with producers to learn how to use the tool. And we did a lot of work to really collect feedback from producers through that first cycle. So anybody who provided us feedback, we really thank you. That's the journey we're on together. We're going to be making this process and these tools more effective time over time. But I do just want to give a great shout out to everybody who's involved on both the producer and CAA side. We completed our first ever producer reporting cycle with Oregon. We had more than 1,950 producer supply reports submitted. We had really great results on the total supply weight that was in alignment with what we had estimated in the program plan. And we are now moving into the Colorado 2025 reporting cycle. That is currently live in our portal, and we have a deadline of July 31st for that. But as I mentioned, we are enhancing the portal every time out. And we have done a number of things to improve that even for the Colorado reporting cycle. So we've added a number of useful links within the portal. We've enabled help and support cases within the portal where you can ask your questions directly from there. That gives you an opportunity to actually get directly to our support team in a faster way. So we encourage you to use that if you're in the portal and able to log in. And I'll talk about how else to do that if you're not. But then we've also included simplified navigation, which was one of the things we heard a lot about in the first round for Oregon. And that's been incorporated already into Colorado's reporting module. So really excited to see those improvements. And then on the technical support side, we've continued to get questions from producers and then tailor our guidance and launch new guidance to support producers through not only their national guidance, but also state-specific guidance that is related to the Colorado reporting cycle. I'll show you in a second, we're doing a ton of educational webinars, but this guidance is here to help you through the reporting journey as a producer. And we're really excited how we've been able to improve and iterate that over time. We just launched some updates very recently, so I'd encourage producers to check that out as you're working on Colorado. And we're able to launch our Eco-Modulation Bonus A LCA report guidance, which is going to help producers prepare LCA reports for Oregon's first Eco-Modulation bonus. Great, let's go to the next slide. So with all that said, tons going on in terms of delivering on those first two programs, but I also want to kind of double down on what Shane was talking about and look what we have ahead of us through the rest of the year. So across multiple programs, we have a number of important dates. I'm not going to go through all of them here today. There are some questions coming in, which we'll address on some of the details of these. But we have our reporting cycle for Colorado ending at the end of July. We do have a reporting cycle for California we have a deadline of November 15th. And we have a Minnesota producer registration deadline and an interim report for Minnesota that we will give more detail on. That will be a very simplified reporting process. So that information will be coming out as we finalize that in the coming months and get through the reporting deadline or the registration deadline. So all of that is coming. We're here to support you through all of it. And if you go to the next slide, these are some of the things that first and foremost we will do, and this is one of the best ways for you to get involved with CAA, our educational webinars. The registration and 100 level courses are available to all producers, whether you've registered or not. We have 3 sessions that you can join, and we really want people to come here and ask questions and understand the basics of how to engage with CAA, particularly from a producer compliance perspective. So we host an onboarding session, which is really a general overview of how you will jump into the compliance process with CAA. We have a deep dive on registration and agreements so that if you're working on getting registered and trying to understand that tree of agreements that we showed, we walk through all of that in detail. And then I think in the front of mind for a lot of companies is, how much is this going to cost? If I'm going to register and get engaged, how can I budget within my company? So we do a session on that specifically. Then once you get registered with us, we can really double click on how to prepare and submit your supply data. We do portal trainings and demos, we do program updates, and we do reporting workshops where we take a lot of questions. And those questions are really, really informative to us doing future webinars and updating our guidance as we've talked about. And then lastly, we do a lot of education, and we're beginning this now really for Oregon. As we move into the payment phase, we do a session explaining the fee setting and the published fee rate schedule. We did that for Oregon already in late May, and we're happy to answer questions around that as well. And then we will be doing some deep dives on eco-modulation. As I mentioned, the one program live there is the Bonus A LCA reporting for Oregon. And so we will have some sessions where we'll bring some experts on and talk through preparation of those reports. Great, let's go to the next slide. And in addition to the webinars, which you can join and learn a lot about, we have really worked to increase our support resources and channels so that you really can get in touch with CAA, get to the right person, and get a prompt response when you have questions. And we totally recognize that as we've gone through the beginning of the startup of CAA, it's taken some time to get questions back to you, maybe up to a week at times. We are really working and committed to driving that service level down as much as possible. And I'll talk a little bit about how we're approaching that. We know people are trying to get questions answered quickly, and that is absolutely our goal. And we just appreciate your patience while we're working through the build out of the organization here. First of all, I mentioned we offered help and support cases now in the producer portal that gives you a direct line into the top of the queue. Encourage people to use that. We also have the email address, producersupport@circularaction.org, that can be used at any time to get your question into us, and we will manage that promptly. And then we've made a number of improvements to manage cases as well as the tools that we're using. And we have grown the team significantly. So that's a chart there, a picture, not meant to have you read every name, but just to recognize that the support team and the producer services team has grown to support producers, and we will be continuing to drive efficient responses and support to everybody that needs it through this busy 2025 and as we get into these cycles in 2026 and beyond. And then top of mind for many people, if you've reported in Oregon, we are really looking to help support people pay their invoices on time. We have flagged this for a number of weeks and months now. All producers really should start configuring CAA as a vendor in their systems if they need to do so that they can receive and process invoices from CAA. That obligation is with producers to be able to pay on time, and we're here to support in any way we can to make sure that those systems are set up on your side. We have posted some information in our portal that has everything you need, and then we've got dedicated people at a different channel. So this is very focused on billing and invoicing, but our AR@circularaction.org, which stands for accounts receivable, that is there for everybody who wants to get a direct conversation going about vendor setup, billing, or invoicing. And we are monitoring that with dedicated resources that are available to help people manage the on-time payment of their invoices. And I will just mention here, because I saw a couple questions coming in, we had originally talked about early June for invoices going out. We've been very thoughtful in making sure that everything is correct and that our systems are working properly. And we did begin issuing invoices this week, and that will continue into the beginning of next week. And we expect by next week that all those invoices will be out. Obviously, the payment date will be moved out accordingly. based on the issue date, and you guys who have signed those agreements know that everybody has the same payment terms on their invoices. So happy to take questions on that later, but just wanted to flag that as well. Great, let's go to the next one. And that's all for me. So I think I will pass it on to Kim to speak a bit about Oregon and the program implementation update.
Great. Thank you, Jeff. Hi, everyone. As Lorraine mentioned, I'm Kim Holmes, and I'm the Oregon Executive Director for the Circular Action Alliance team. We are embarking on a very, very exciting stage here in Oregon. Just 18 days from now, 18 calendar days and 11 business days, we will be implementing the nation's very first packaging and paper EPR program in the country. So this is a result of a lot of hard work. And I do want to acknowledge all of the hard work that has not only come from the CAA team, both the national team and the state teams, but really all of our partners across the state. As many of you know, establishing an EPR program can take some time. In Oregon, it took about 7 years. So it was from the time that National Sword, the state began to feel the impacts of that in 2018. The legislative concept was developed through a stakeholder effort. And then that piece of legislation went to the legislature, was passed, and then as many of you have been tracking, a very robust regulation development process, and then consultation process with CAA, with all of the local governments and haulers, has been undertaken over the past few years. So we are at a very exciting point, which is the result of some very hard work, and I want to acknowledge all of those folks. So today I'm going to walk you through where we are at in some of our core compliance areas in terms of building out the program for implementation. So one of the largest areas of responsibility for Circular Action Alliance as the pro in Oregon is to offer funding for communities to fill gaps in their recycling systems. The goal of the RMA, the Recycling Modernization Act in Oregon, is to make sure that there's equitable access to recycling across the state. So whether you live in Portland, Oregon, or Burns, Oregon, you will all be able to recycle the same materials eventually once we reach the course of our first program plan period, which is 2.5 years. So we are beginning with Priority A. These are communities that do not have curbside recycling programs and are over the population of 4,000. This represents about $17.5 million of the program budget in the first program plan period. And so we're working with them to make sure that we are ready to order trucks and some of the infrastructure that's necessary to begin to get their programs built and off the ground. We're also reaching out to priority groups B, C, and D. These are all different communities that are in different stages of their recycling systems and programs. Again, identifying where there are gaps and funding opportunities for CAA. All of our funding obligations are going through what we're calling our primary funding agreement structure and system. So anyone receiving funding from Circular Action Alliance is asked to sign their primary funding agreement. That really triggers your access to the portals, the payment systems, and then from there, our team is working with each community and each hauler to identify what their funding eligibility is for a broad range of different funding opportunities. So that is well underway as well. We are anticipating we will be in a position to begin to disperse the funding as soon as implementation begins and those invoices begin to roll in. Next slide, please. Okay, another exciting element of the program here in Oregon is that the pro is responsible for setting up a comprehensive network of collection points around the state for some of those more challenging to recycle materials. These are materials that we know are recyclable, have good markets, but maybe aren't compatible necessarily with the commingled recycling stream. So at this stage, items that are part of this system to manage, that CA will be managing, they're items like shredded paper, plastic lids, carrier handles, expanded polystyrene, glass, and a few other items. So we will be looking to roll out the first of our collection points in Q3 of this year. You see there's a mock-up of the modular system that we're looking to put in place in communities across the state. It is a shipping container with roll-up doors where people can walk in and place their items source separated, where they'll be then collected, aggregated, and sent to responsible end markets. We will have full support for the locations of these. We'll have education and outreach resources available for those hosting sites, and offer compensation for hosting the site and managing the site for us. Next slide. Another primary area of responsibility for CAA is to offer a comprehensive suite of education and outreach materials. It's really important that as we look to standardize recycling across the system, we're also standardizing how we educate users of the system, what can be recycled, what shouldn't be recycled, and working with communities to offer these materials as they start to make the transition to that uniform statewide collection list. So we have launched recycleon.org. I encourage you to check it out. You'll get a little preview of that on the next slide. That's a resource for residents and businesses to identify the recycling opportunities in their area and learn more about the changes coming to their system. For local governments and service providers, we have a portal where they can go in and customize their resources, not only emphasizing collection of certain materials and trying to educate around certain contaminants, but also we'll have materials in 10 different languages to make sure that really we're getting this message to all of the constituents here within the state. Next slide, please. And as I mentioned, here's a little preview of the recycleon.org website that officially will launch July 1, but we've done a little soft launch here. So I would encourage you to go and check it out and see the type of functionality that we'll be able to offer on this site, not just for Oregon, but for future sites as well, for future states. Next slide, please. Okay, and the last slide here on Oregon, we are also working to launch our Contamination Audit Center. This is another really exciting feature. This really will be the first centralized auditing facility in the country. This is a model replicated off of a system that's worked very, very well in Canada. We have leased space that will be bringing samples from across the state and doing a waste characterization on those samples. So we really understand what people are recycling and in what amounts they're recycling. We'll get that information back to the communities, and then they can take that information and go back and customize those education outreach resources to really make sure that the system is working best for the people within their community. So we look forward to working with those across the state as we implement what we hope will be a system that we can replicate across the country into other states as well. And so I think that brings me to my last slide, but I really want to, again, thank everyone who's contributed to the process of developing this program and helping us get to this stage, and look forward to continue to work with producers and others that will be providing support within the state. And I look forward to any questions you might have. And with that, I'm going to go ahead and hand it over to my colleague, Yuri, who heads up Colorado.
Thank you, Kim. And always so exciting to hear what's happening in Oregon. Amazing work, and great to hear it starting so soon. Next slide, please. We are a few months behind Oregon here in Colorado, but I do want to give a brief 10-minute or so status update of where we're at in the state and what some of the next steps and what some of the immediate actions are for folks listening in today to take to prepare for EPR implementation here in the state. You may recall at our last meeting, we shared that we were had just submitted our program plan. So program plan proposal went in on February 3rd of this year. Over the last 90 days, the advisory board from the department, CDPHE's advisory board, has been reviewing the plan proposal. And on April 30th, they submitted a memorandum back to CDPHE with a number of amendment requests. So they had 9 requests for amendment to be compliant with the law. And then they also provided some other comments or recommended comments that we are considering. The memo was posted on the CDPHE's website. Link is here, so if anyone wants to see it, you're welcome to see both the plan proposal and the memorandum from the advisory board. We are in the process of responding to that memo, and we will be submitting our amended program plan on or before June 30th. I expect that CDPHE will post the amended program plan a few days after we submit it. So don't look for it on the 30th. I'm guessing it's going to take them 3 or 4 days to get through their IT, do their ADA compliance review, and get up on their website. But early July, it will be available. The link is here again, and we will put it on our website as well. Next slide. So what is in the plan? The last time I presented this group, I got a little bit deeper on what's in the plan. I do recommend folks that are interested just pull down the plan proposal and read it, or wait to see the amended program plan here in about 3 weeks. Colorado's program is a bit different than the other states. Colorado is the only state that has 100% producer-funded EPR. So in our state, producers are responsible for paying 100% of the net service costs of recycling services provided in Colorado. So that starts at the household and goes to the back of the MRF. So collection, transportation, transfer, processing. We also are responsible for tracking through responsible end markets, REMS, working into reuse, refill, eco-modulation, a bunch of other things. But we talk about reimbursements for service provider costs. It's net services from collection to the back of the MRF. And I should mention this, we do have a robust education outreach campaign as well. The aim of this service strategy is by 2035 to more than double Colorado's recycling rate. The program plan duration is 5 years. So in the program plan, we lay out our service strategy to increasing recycling rates in the state by about 64% from 2026 to 2030. On this slide, this is like a really high level of the service strategy. These are not steps. These are all happening concurrently. But we will be looking at ways to reimburse existing curbside services. So parts of Colorado today, you look at like City of Denver, vast majority of Denver residents, or we're talking high 90%, have a cart at their household, their recycling. So under the program plan, we will be reimbursing the CAA producers will be reimbursing the cost of that collection service for City of Denver. There's also wide parts of our state, about 54% of our state are under subscription service or open market. And so there's big parts of our state where folks may have access to recycling, but for some reason or other, they are not participating. It could be that cost too expensive, access is inconvenient, maybe they can't get delivered at their household on the same day. So in those areas, we're looking to boost participation. So there is access, there's infrastructure, there's haulers that can provide it. We'd enter into service agreements and use our education outreach and other engagement tools to boost participation. Then there's large parts of our states geographically, but small in terms of population, that just they don't have the infrastructure. There's not the capacity today in our rural areas or some of our mountainous areas where there's just no transfer operations, there's not access to a MRF, haulers don't provide services. So in those areas of the state, we'll be looking ways to build capacity in these underserved areas. At the same time, we will be enhancing the system to recycle more items. So this is investments in the MRFs to increase recovery, improve yield, looking at ways to move materials from our additional material list, the AML list, onto the MRL, the minimum recyclables list. So to achieve our goals, it's not just providing access to all households, it's also moving materials to the MRL, increasing efficiency, and increasing yield and recovery rates. Next slide, please. Okay, so program timeline. Talked a little bit about these first couple bullets. Slide back. See, we are in the process of doing our revisions to the program plan proposal. These were not unexpected. It was called a program plan proposal. We knew we were going to get recommendations for revision or amendment. It's in the state law that we would do a proposal, then an amended plan. So we are developing the amended plan right now. The amended plan will go in on or before 6/30. Once we submit it, the CDPHE Advisory Board has 45 days, a month and a half, to review that amended plan, make sure that we address the requests and their amendments, and then they would pass it on to CDPHE, that's the department, Colorado Department of Public Health and Environment. CDPHE will do a public comment period, and then they will approve or reject the plan within 120 days. That brings us to mid-December. So we're looking at a early 2026 implementation. Following plan approval, which is mid-December, CAA has 6 months to begin implementation of the service strategy. Invoicing payments from producers are due in January of 26. So that is in the state law that payments are due by January, and we'll talk about that next slide a little bit. Registration, some of these other deadlines. Next slide, please. All right, so folks listening in on this call, what can you do to prepare? I just have 2 buckets here. I've got a couple bullets for producers and a couple bullets for local governments, collectors, processors, or service providers. So if you're providing recycling services in Colorado, what to do. So if you are a producer, register, report your data. Jeff talked about it. That's the biggest step to take right now. So the state law in Colorado and the state regulations state that beginning July 1st of this year, so just 20-something days away from now, a producer cannot sell or distribute products that use covered materials in Colorado unless they participate in the producer responsibility program. That language is directly from the EPR law and the regs. So that's state law. Participate in the EPR program. To solidify your status as a participating producer, here's the link, the QR code to go on and register. Jeffrey talked about the COSA, the state addendum, the next steps to report data. So register, get in there, get the COSA, get ready to report your data. Data is due by July 31st. So coming up here in a month and a half in Colorado. Report your data to maintain your participant status. So following July 31st, if you are an obligated producer and you haven't reported your data, you may not be considered a participating producer by this definition. Local government. So if you're a service provider and you want to participate and get reimbursements, that's a key part of our service strategy. Eligible service providers that choose to participate, as I mentioned earlier, 100% of net service costs. We are full 100% net, 100% producer responsibility program in Colorado. So if you want to learn more about this, go to our website. The link is in here. You can click on this. We are sending out Colorado-specific newsletters to provide more information. We are hosting a series of webinars starting in July 10th and then going on August 7th. These are aimed at local governments. So if you are a local government in Colorado, you want to participate, please come to these webinars to learn more. We will be hosting similar webinars for private service providers, education outreach, other topics later in this year. And of course, feel free to email us, coloradoinfo@circularaction.org. We are meeting constantly with cities, counties, haulers, service providers, and I look forward to those meetings. So please email us, schedule a meeting. We can tell you all about how this will work in Colorado. This is particular for service providers that want to participate in the program. Please don't be shy, reach out to us, and we can talk more in detail. That's it. I'm going to pass this back off to, I believe, Lorraine.
Yes, thank you, Yuri. Thank you, Jeff. Thank you, all our speakers today. So we have quite a bit of time left for Q&A, which is fabulous because we have